Recording started. Audio looks good. Okay. Welcome to part 3 of this VOD review series looking at the 2018 Overwatch World Cup match between South Korea and Finland. We went through first Lijiang Tower, and there's a separate video for the first map, Night Market, and then the second video is Control Center, which South Korea took Lijiang. And here we're moving on to map 2, which is King's Row. This was selected by Finland, with South Korea opting to defend first. It is more than likely that I will be splitting this video into 2 parts itself, with one VOD focusing on Finland's attack, and then when they swap sides for it'll be another VOD looking at South Korea's attack. I'm going to employ a slightly different strategy than in my first 2 VODs looking at South Korea, Finland, as opposed to just kind of going through the map slowly from the start. What I'm going to do is play through each fight in its entirety before going back and going through, just so that there's an uninterrupted look at the fight, so anyone watching can kind of look at it themselves in real time before I start hitting pause and rewinding and everything like that. So without further ado, let's get into the first fight here, with Finland attacking.
That is something we very well may see moving forward.
All right, well, let's go ahead. Take a final look at what the attack is going to look like from Finland.
Goats.
And what a surprise!
Yep, it's going to be the triple tank, triple support with Taimu, of course, on this Brigitte. We've been calling it a support because of her ability to heal, but she is very tanky. She does have really good defensive capabilities. Running past the point here, actually.
Yeah, she's going to be wrapping around the backhand side. This is not going to be any LA Gladiators nonsense.
It's going to be a collapse in. It's a real Brigitte.
Yeah, they want to push up onto the high ground. They want to try to force this Orisa out of position. They will be able to do so. We'll go ahead and throw down that barrier right up onto the corner as everyone piles in, looking for Fate. And he's going to get taken on the fire strike. Finds the kill, but Jonak does knock Zappis out of his mech. So not without a cause, but now they're in onto the point. They're ticking up. They're halfway there. Jonak taken down by the orb of all things here from Shaz. And Big Goose gets Carpe. This is going to be a massive, massive time bank here for Finland as they try to get this cap on the first push. Libero is above them, but he is all on his lonesome. He gets popped up in the air, and he won't come back down alive. So first cap in for Finland. And yeah, that's going to be 5.5 minutes on the clock.
5.5 minutes. Really nice execution of the run-by strategy. Not getting caught there.
Okay. Obviously, Finland took that first point very quickly and have a healthy 5+ minutes on the time bank going into the streets phase. Let's go back and look at some reasons why Finland was able to take that point so quickly.
Force this around.
Taimu, of course, on stage. They haven't mastered it yet, but I think that is something we've...
Take a final look at what the attack is going to look like from...
So we see here, just based on the initial compositions, we can kind of tell what each team is going to be trying to do. South Korea is set up in kind of a classic Orisa defense. I've seen this run with Widow and Junkrat more often than double sniper. But the overall strategy of this, even with the Junkrat, which I think would have been more effective here, because he could have gotten Tyre a little bit faster than Hanzo can get ult Dragon Strike. But the goal is to have the Orisa sit on the traditional perch with the shield, and draw a lot of attention onto her and her shield, and force Finland to come and have to deal with her a little bit. In the meantime, South Korea is going to have snipers set up kind of all around this, and then Jonak, of course, counting him as like a pseudo DPS. But what this does is this creates high pick potential in crossfire. So if Finland is focusing on the Orisa shield, then they're going to be able to be hit from multiple angles. And the D.Va is there to kind of be the initial contester on point if Finland comes in and applies point pressure. It's because D.Va can fly on and off, and then that'll allow the Orisa to stay up as long as possible. Meanwhile, Finland running classic goats. Their entire goal is to minimize their exposure to things like this crossfire. So you can see even with their, coming out of this gate, it's preventing D.Va from getting a micro missile off to start. And they're going to come through here and they're going to snake through Hotel. And that's going to keep them covered from Zenyatta and Widow and Hanzo. It's really the entire point of goats is to minimize the exposure and angles that the composition is exposed to, and then punish isolated targets or mistakes of any kind, usually positional mistakes. And then they want to be able to bring the fight on to point, because if they force the Orisa and the D.Va both to come to point in order to contest, then their extra sustain and their beefiness is going to take the point for them, which is kind of what we see happen.
From Finland,
Goats.
And what a surprise!
Yep, it's going to be the triple tank, triple support with Taimu, of course, on this Brigida. We've been calling it a support because of her ability to heal, but she is very tanky. She does have, really good defensive capabilities. Running past the point here, actually.
Yeah, she's going to be wrapping around the backhand side. This is not going to be any...
So we see here that the path that they take is going to keep them covered. It's going to minimize, it minimizes the exposure to the Orisa fire there.
Heal, but she is very tanky. She does have, really good defensive capabilities.
Minimizes the ability of Hanzo to get damage on.
Capabilities running past the point here, actually.
Widow has to hook away from the D.Va.
Yeah, she's going to be wrapping around the backhand side. This is not going to be any LA Gladiators nonsense.
And then their entire point of going this way is they want to get that Orisa knocked off. Because if Orisa is forced onto point, then the advantage of South Korea having that hero placed up on high ground is lost. So once they force that Orisa to point, they will force everyone else on South Korea, particularly D.Va and Mercy, onto point to try and help her out. And Finland's entire goal here is to force that to happen and kill this Orisa quick enough before Carpe or Libero find a pick on a healer.
Collapsing, it's a real Brigida.
Yeah, they want to push up onto the high ground. They want to try to force this Orisa out of position. They will be able to do so. We'll go ahead and throw down that barrier right up onto the corner as everyone piles in, looking for Fate. And he's going to get taken out of the fire strike. Finds the kill, but Jonek does not.
And then so this is a big win for Finland here. They managed to keep everyone alive, so no one got picked off from a headshot from Carpe or Libero here. And they were able to get South Korea's main tank, and now they're just going to stack on point and force South Korea to come to them.
Zap is out of his mech. So not without a cause, but now they're in onto the point. They're ticking up. They're halfway there. Jonek taken down by the orb of all things here from Shaz. And Big Goose gets Carpe. This is going to be a massive, massive time make here for Finland as they try to get this cap on the first push. Libero is above them, but he is all on his lonesome. He gets popped up in the air, and he won't come back down alive. So first cap in for Finland. And yeah, that's going to be 5.5.
And that's a really strong attack for Finland. They executed very well. They moved really well. Their entire their win condition was to knock Orisa down onto point and kill her, and then they have such a strong point presence that without that main tank, it was already a lost fight for South Korea. And just one more quick note on South Korea's composition here. If I am South Korea, then I'm going to be expecting goats here. Finland ran basically, they didn't change off of goats at all on Lijiang Tower. South Korea knows that Finland likes to run this goats composition. And South Korea knows that Finland picked this map so they should be aware that Finland is picking this map because they think it's advantageous to the composition they like to run. And so I would have picked a different initial defense composition here. I think that having Libero on Pharah would have been really good. We know how strong his Pharah is, and we just saw on Lijiang Tower how much his Pharah was able to just kind of pick apart Finland's goats composition. And then I think that you need a more mobile tank that can't be isolated and punished so easily, because when you have these snipers that are set up for crossfire, Orissa's kind of like a sitting duck. Zen doesn't want to be near her because Zen is adding to the crossfire by being positioned somewhere else on high ground. So I think a more mobile tank here, or keep the Orisa but run a Junkrat instead and do a Junkrat Widow or a Pharah Widow. I think would have been the stronger comp, and we're going to see South Korea recognize that their comp is insufficient, particularly for the next phase.
Right up onto the corner is above them, but he is all on his lonesome. He gets popped up in the air, and he won't come back down alive. So first cap in for Finland, and yeah, that's going to be 5.5 minutes on the clock.
5.5 minutes, really nice execution of the run-by strategy.
So we see the swaps come in for South Korea for Streets phase. And this composition is identical to the one that they ran on the second half of Control Center when Carpe came back on Doomfist from spawn, and then they kept it like this. This is South Korea's go-to anti-goats composition. They get the Wrecking Ball, who's a very mobile tank and can't be quickly focused. Down by the goats composition, he's in and he's out. He uses the Slam to disrupt targets. Apologies, let me close Discord. So that those notifications stop. So they get the Wrecking Ball slams and the Wrecking Ball hook to roll around and knock these targets around. And then when Finland is stacked up in an ideal goats position, then Fate's going to be able to use his adaptive shield to get a ton of health. The pharmacy is, obvious. It's can't be touched by the goats composition. And with arc damage boosting will result in rapid barrages. Should be a barrage like every team fight, ideally, provided that the rest of South Korea doesn't take too much damage, such that it forces arc to come off of Libero. And then Diva and Doomfist, of course, have the same kind of engagement ability and disengagement ability. They're in and they're out. We need to be careful with the Doomfist here if we're South Korea, because if Taimu on this Brigitte stuns Doomfist first, if Doomfist dives in first, then he's going to eat that stun. So it's going to be much better if Carpe kind of waits a split second until Fate and Myxo or Myxo have gone in, and that'll allow Fader Meko to soak the Brigitte shield bash, and that's going to give Carpe more range, more freedom of movement when he comes in. And South Korea also has to know, though, that they are at a significant ult disadvantage coming in because of all the swaps, and we've got two good ults for Finland. So Finland's going to look to play aggressive here, to take advantage of their ult bank, and it's going to be interesting to see how Finland responds to this anti-goats composition, because we just saw on Lijiang Tower how effective this composition was against it.
Not getting caught there. Given that Roadhog wasn't a factor, there was no way to pick them while they were sneaking around, skirting around the side here. We're going to see Bingus, first person perspective, he does get the final kill there onto Carpe. It's a good chase there by one of the world's best Lucios. So the comp we're seeing now from South Korea is Fate back on this ham.
Must be noted that South Korea was really smart about how they were respawning and regrouping. Too often, I see teams where they get split apart by the spawn. You know, some people spawn close here, and then the enemy team captures the point, and then the rest of the team spawns all the way back at point C. And then you'll see like a lot of, you'll see like 3 or 4 teammates that got that early spawn come out here, and then you'll see the other ones that are like really far away. So teams can take advantage by pushing up aggressively through streets and getting stagger picks. But if you're defending in this situation and you got caught at that spawn, but the point is lost, you need to retreat that way, like behind, not through. Let me see. I'll just throw up a static image of this. King's Row. This will work. So instead of coming out here with that bad spawn, you just need to go back through the alley this way, to regroup with your team coming back. And even though it's going to give the team a little, it's going to give up space here, but it's much more advantageous to go back and regroup. And this space is somewhat of a dead space. It's not critical that the defense team hold it here, but instead holds it by the time it turns that second corner. Clear screen. Alright, let's watch this second fight.
And of course, Carpe going to the Doofus. They're trying to break this tank comp with CC.
Yep. Fate diving forward. Adaptive Shield's going to come in. Keeping himself alive. Big Goose kind of going around to the side, keeping everybody sustained, building up towards that sound barrier. So a little ways away from that one, but now Taimu will have the rally set. Throws it down. He's offering up his armor here to the supports. They're going to lose it here as they take a smattering of damage. Coalescence out from Shaz, keeps everybody topped up as they keep this cart rolling through. So far, hasn't really been stopped. It's just been the drive-bys from Fate that kind of hold it in. Carpe diving in, but immediately gets shield bash, and Taimu just shuts him down.
And they tried to combo it with the minefield from mid-air to try to basically just drop them down. Does not work.
Self-destruct comes out, manages to find Fraggy, so this is going to allow for South Korea to go ahead and gain control over the cart on this corner, at least for the moment. Echo goes in, gets rid of Zappis, Big Goose goes down, nice little stagger there onto the Lucio. Fate keeps playing forward, knows that he's got that incredible accuracy with these quad cannons. He just wants to build up as much as he can for the next minefield.
Yeah, you have this ability to do massive.
Okay, let's go back and look at this.
They're going to lose it here as they take a...
Into the Doofus, they're trying to... Roadhog wasn't a factor there. There was no way to pick them while they're...
Cap on the first push. So first cap in.
Really nice execution of the run-by strategy. Not getting caught there. Given that Roadhog wasn't a factor, there was no way to pick them while they were sneaking around, skirting around the side here. We're going to see Bingus, first person perspective, he does get the final kill there onto Carpe. It's a good chase there by one of the world's best Lucios. So the comp we're seeing now from South Korea is Fate back on this Hammond, and of course Carpe going to the Doofus. They're trying to break this tank.
So here we see the initial dive come in from the Wrecking Ball, which is going to be followed up by a Doomfist,
Diving forward, adaptive shield.
and almost gets Diva there.
Shield's gonna come in. Keeping himself alive. Big Goose
That would have been a big pick.
going around to the side, keeping everybody sustained, building up towards that sound barrier.
And then you see, so this is like the repeated cycle for South Korea, is they come in with this dive, ideally on a discorded target,
Himself alive. Big Goose kind of going.
and if they don't get anything, then they roll out and come back in for
Hammond,
another
and
one.
of course Carpe going to the Doofus. They're trying to break this tank comp with CC.
Yep. Big diving forward, adaptive
See,
shield
we
gonna come in.
see all of South Korea kind of retreat and reset,
Himself alive. Big Goose kind of go around.
and Fate is doing his best to keep these keep the ghost composition separate.
To the side, keeping everybody sustained, building up towards that sound barrier. So a little ways away from that one, but now.
And then we see the rally and the coalescence come in for Finland,
But now Taimu will have.
which is going to be very effective at zoning out
Down. He's offering up his armor here to the supports. They're going to lose it here.
Doomfist and Pharmacy.
Coalescence out from Shaz keeps everybody topped up as they keep this cart rolling.
And you see South Korea kind of falls back while that coalescence is up.
Through so far.
And South Korea here, their mindset is that they do not want to let this cart get much farther than here. Because once that cart gets to that third corner, this point becomes a very, very difficult point to hold. They want to stop it here because it's a lot better. It allows South Korea to get in better defensive positionings than if the cart was up there near the end of the point.
Rolling through so far. Hasn't really been stopped.
And here we're about to see something that I talked about before point 2 started, which is that Carpe has to be very careful about not initiating on his own, because if he eats that shield bash instead of a tank, then he's going to be instantly deleted, which is what we see here. And the coordination here was remarkable from South Korea. Look how this slam from Carpe lands at the exact same time as Wrecking Ball's slam.
It's just been the drive-bys from Fate.
Really, really strong. Taimu, however, was clued in, and he knew that he wanted to stun the Doomfist, not the Wrecking Ball.
Topped up as they keep this cart rolling through so far. Hasn't really been stopped. It's just been the drive-bys from Fate that kind of hold it in. Carpe diving in, but immediately gets shield back.
And it looked like he didn't even know that Doomfist was coming in necessarily. Really? He's looking at Wrecking Ball, and he's getting his shield put up here to defend from the Wrecking Ball. And then as he just is like turning to look, he sees Doomfist come in.
From Fate that kind of holds it in. Carpe diving in, but immediately gets shield bashed. And Taimu just shuts him down.
And the goal was to use the minefield that Fate had. And if Doomfist lives, then he punches people around and knocks people up in the air, and they land in mines and they die. But with Carpe dead, this minefield becomes, with Doomfist dead, this minefield becomes less effective here, because Finland's able to sidestep and avoid these mines and destroy them.
And they tried to combo it with the minefield from mid-air to try to...
And then we have...
Taimu just shuts him down.
And they tried to combo it with the minefield from mid-air to try to basically just drop them.
Taimu just shut. It's just been the drive-bys from Fate that kind of holds it in. Carpe diving in, but immediately gets shield bashed. And Taimu just shuts him down.
And they tried to combo it with the minefield from mid-air.
And Taimu kind of gets caught away from his team here.
Taimu just shuts him down.
And they tried to combo it with the minefield from mid-air.
That was, so we can see how Libero used his concussive blast here to isolate Taimu, to isolate the entire team. You know, he blew back Zarya and Lucio here, and he knocked Taimu on Brigitte this way and Fraggy this way.
And they tried to
and so that concussive blast results in a very split goats composition here, which makes it very easy for.
combo it with the
So you see here that Brigitte is not within range of Moira heals, is not within range of Lucio heals, and then with a Discord orb placed on her, it's an easy follow-up kill for
minefield from mid-air.
Farah.
Trying to basically just drop them down. Does not drop them down.
Which just shuts him down.
And they tried to combo it with the minefield from mid-air to try to basically just drop.
And also take note of how South Korea made sure to destroy Reinhardt's shield before Myxo launches this mech.
Just shuts him down.
And they tried to combo it with the minefield from mid-air to try to.
So now with Brigitte dead and Fraggy with no shield, there's really nothing other than map geography to stop this bomb.
Try to basically just drop them down. Does not work.
And it gets Fraggy. So now at this point, this fight has been won by South Korea. Finland is not going to be able to make any solid progress on the payload here without their Reinhardt and without their Brigitte. Going up against a Farah with the goats composition, you need all three healers alive simultaneously, because that's the only way that you're going to outlast the pharmacy damage.
Comes out, manages to find Fraggy, so this is gonna.
And then wisely,
Just drop them down. Does not work.
Self-destruct comes out, manages to find Fraggy.
we see Finland pull back so as to not feed any more ultimate charge.
So this is going to allow for South Korea to go ahead and gain control over the cart on this corner, at least for the moment. Myxo goes in, gets rid of Zappis, Big Goose goes down, nice little stagger there onto the Lucio.
And this is good stagger follow-up.
Goes in, gets rid of control over the cart on this corner, at least for the moment. Myxo goes
Enabled
in,
by
gets
the
rid of Zappis,
mobility
Big Goose goes down.
of the wrecking ball.
Goes down, nice little stagger there onto the Lucio.
Now we can see here that South Korea invested a decent number of ults. Hey. They invested Minefield, they invested Diva Bomb, they invested Valkyrie, and that's all for a good reason, because general wisdom, kind of like basic ult guides will tell teams to look for ults in twos. South Korea, however, they use their ults a little bit differently. They recognize that it's more important for them to have the advantageous positioning here if the payload is stopped here. That's more important than having one extra ult for the next fight. So they're going to invest as many ults as they see fit to stop it here, because the position is more important than the ultimate. Whereas if the cart had moved up towards the end, they might have more ultimates, but they won't have the better defensive position.
I think a smattering of damage. Oh, stop, it's just been him down. Over the cart, goes down, nice little stagger there onto the Lucio. Spade keeps playing forward. Knows that he's got that incredible accuracy with these quad cannons. He just wants to build up as much as he can for the next minefield.
Yeah, you have this ability to do massive damage and position yourself more aggressively because you have a huge tank pool, tank health.
Alright, now we'll run through this fight, and then we'll go back and break it down.
Health pool because you are a tank and you have your adaptive shield, so play aggressively. Here comes the run in.
Shatter going to be coming in. It's going to be Myxo getting locked down. Fate as well in the back. Fate and Jonik there going to fall. Myxo taken out and eliminated. Final hammer swing there from Fraggy will get the life of Arc, and the cart can push forward again. Finland still with a massive time bank of 3.5 minutes, rolling into point B, which is go ahead and bump that up even more. South Korea, can they stop this?
It was a really beautiful shatter from Fraggy, so, you know, I mean, after that, they knew, Libero knew he couldn't try to barrage there, which is never going to be a trade-up. They have those same ultimates to look for a contest here, though, especially the Meteor Strike. Link Circuit all shut it down, though, with one good grab. There.
Okay. Went a little too far there. So this was a very, very quick win for Finland.
Have your adaptive shield.
First, they take a really smart path to come back. So often I just see teams come back through main here, but that just opens the team up to so much. It gives Farah a huge area that she can kind of just knock those concussive blasts and rockets down on. It gives a lot of space, aerial space for Doomfist to fly in, for Wrecking Ball to swing up and down. So again, like we talked about with Goats at the beginning of this fight, or at the beginning of this map, the point of Goats is to minimize the angle of exposure, and by going through here, they prevent that extra damage from coming in.
Because you have a huge tank pool, tank health pool, because you are a tank, and you have your...
And Finland also knows coming into this fight that they've got an advantage on ults. They know that South Korea used 3 to their 2 on the last fight. If you're South Korea, you should be expecting a Grav and a Shatter and a Beat and a Diva Bomb. Like, so even though they're close on Diva Bomb and Grav, so if you're South Korea, you're going into this fight playing like Finland has all 4 of those ultimates. So South Korea here would love to be able to survive a couple of these ultimates, and force Finland to have to use more than they would like to.
Your adaptive shield, so good play aggressively. Here comes the run in.
Shatter going to be coming in.
And that's a huge Shatter coming in. So looking at the composition, Fraggy, who's an excellent Reinhardt, knows that this is going to be a free Shatter, and that he needs to pull the trigger on it as soon as he sees that opportunity. He wants to get it off so that these heroes don't have the advanced warning, and they can use their movement abilities to get away. But there's nothing that's going to be able to block this Shatter.
Adaptive shield, so good play aggressive.
And so we see Fraggy use this Shatter to get a lot of South Korea's players, and then they beat speed boost into it to just finish it off.
Aggressively, here comes the run in.
And that Shatter got,
Shatter gonna
I believe it got Zenyatta, it got Diva, and it got Wrecking Ball there. And this beat, so it looks like Libero here, he built up his barrage, and it looks like he's kind of taking a really high approach in to see if he can drop this barrage. But what this beat does is it preempts the barrage. He can't barrage while that beat is up there.
They're going to be coming in.
And by the time that beat wears off, the fight's going to be lost for South Korea. So he's not going to have his opportunity to shatter or to barrage.
Myxo getting locked down, Fate as well.
And so with that Shatter taking out as many people as it did, it's a quick fight for Finland. And I really like the idea of using the beat to initiate with the Shatter, because it preempted an offensive ultimate use from South Korea.
Well in the back.
And we see that Libero here is just going to get out.
Fate and Jonik there going to fall. Myxo taken out and eliminated. Final hammer swing there from Fraggy will get the life of Arc, and the cart can push forward again.
Alright, now we'll watch through to the end of the next fight and then run it back.
Finland still with a massive time bank of 3.5 minutes.
It was
Rolling into point B, which is go ahead and bump that up even more. South Korea, can they stop this?
It was a really beautiful shatter from Fraggy, so, you know, I mean, after that, they knew, Libero knew he couldn't try to barrage there, which is never going to be a trade-up. They have those same ultimates to look for a contest here, though, especially the Meteor Strike. Myxo can all shut it down, though, with one good grab. There it is.
That's going to be the grab and barrage out from Libero. Manages to find one. The self-destruct from Zappis gets two. Libero and Faith both going down. Meteor Strike comes in. Big Goose going low. Zarya bubbles there to try to keep him alive. Rocket punch in. Can't get the execution. Big Goose still survives. He's over onto the cart, keeping this one contested. Carpe jumping way over to the side, trying to stay alive. He's down below half HP.
So good.
And Fraggy manages to get Jonak. They try to get this completion. 1.43 meters left to go. Arc is going to have the res. Puts the Zenyatta back into the fight. Fate playing forward. Pulls his way out of there, but Mecho's going to get taken down, and Jonak's dead again. The Goose will get eliminated. Carpe finds that one. Medium energy here on Linkster, zapping away, building up a little bit more as he tosses out these shields, and Carpe will die. Completion is there, and now it's 4 minutes for the home stretch for Finland to try to make it to point C.
Finland is just playing around this very aggressive dive style so well. I mean, you don't normally think of a traditional dive as a Wrecking Ball plus a Doom Fist, but in this case, that's what South Korea is trying to operate on. Taimu's shutting it down. Linkster's building up these very early gravitons, and he's also fighting with high energy because of this style. Here comes Fate, but again, they're splitting against it. They've figured out Fate's style here.
All right, I let that run a little far, so let's take it back.
Styles
forward. Zarya bubbles there to try.
They knew.
Fate and Jonak there going to fall. Mecho taken out and eliminated. Final hammer swing there from Fraggy will get the life of Arc, and the cart can push forward again. Finland still with a massive time bank of 3.5 minutes. Rolling into point B, which is go ahead and bump that up even more. South Korea, can they stop this?
It was a really beautiful shatter from Fraggy, so...
So this is a very ambitious contest by South Korea. With the payload already passing this corner, it's really hard for a team to defend it. Then this is kind of a small space, so against the GOAT's composition, it's going to be pretty hard for South Korea to do that. Also depends on where their Pharah can get set up, because if Pharah is stuck behind this entryway, she can't quite get the elevation necessary to get those rockets past Fraggy's Rhine shield. So the pharmacy is going to have to come out a little bit. But South Korea feels that they have a good chance at taking this, even despite the geographic disadvantage, because they've got a barrage, a trans, and a slam, or Meteor Strike. You know, if Meteor Strike takes out even just one of the support targets, or a Diva Mech, then it's going to be a lot better for this barrage to come in. They could also do a trans barrage to get to make sure that Libero is not going to get that barrage taken out. He's not going to get taken out while he's barraging. Or more than likely, we'll see Jonak save that Transcendence for a Grav. Perhaps even double up and use the barrage from within the Grav while the Trans is up. So South Korea thinks they have a good amount of ultimate abilities to defend here.
You know, I mean,
and they get pretty close.
That, they knew, Libero knew he couldn't try to barrage there, which is never going to be a trade-up. They have those same ultimates to look for a contest here, though, especially the Meteor Strike. Linkster can all shut it down, though, with one good grab. There it is.
That's going to be the grab and barrage out from Libero. Manages to find one.
So let's look carefully here at what's happening.
They have those same ultimates to look for a contest here, though, especially the Meteor Strike. Linkster can all shut it down, though, with one good grab. There it is.
That's going to be the grab and barrage.
So I don't know exactly how Zappis' mech dies, because there's not a mech death in the kill feed. So we see South Korea initiate with the barrage, which is interesting.
They have those same ultimates to look for a contest here, though, especially the...
Given that Finland has, you know, their shield up. They have their Zarya bubbles up. They have a Diva in mech.
The meteor strike. Myxo can all shut it down though.
So it's tough to see from this particular angle
They have
where
those-
that Diva is playing.
Libero knew he couldn't try to barrage there, which is never going to be a trade up. They have those same ultimates to look for a contest here though, especially the meteor strike.
Can push forward again.
Let's see if we can identify
It was
where Finland's Diva
Just go ahead and bump that up even more. South Korea, can they stop
starts
this?
off.
It was a really beautiful shatter from Fraggy, so, you know, I mean, after that, they knew, Libero knew he couldn't try to barrage there, which is never going to be a trade up.
So it looks like
They have
Diva may have turned back here.
Libero knew he couldn't try
So we saw South Korea's Wrecking Ball roll that way. It looks like Zappis turns back here just a little bit to maybe spy on that Wrecking Ball.
never going to be a
But here we see him. Okay, so he comes forward.
They have those same ultimates to look for
And so he should be right there with this barrage.
All shut it down though with one good grab. There it is.
That's going to be
But that mech goes down super quick to that barrage. Must not have had much of his defense matrix left.
There it is.
That's going to be the grab and barrage up.
So the barrage does take out Farah.
Libero manages to find one.
Okay.
They have
Scratch
those
everything.
Same ultimates to look for a contest here though, especially the meteor strike. Myxo can all shut it down though.
So instead of... So this barrage doesn't kill the Diva mech. The barrage comes in first. And then we hear where we see Finland going out for a grav bomb combo. Again, without a shield. The grav bomb is going to be very effective if it lands those targets and the bomb is well placed. So the reason Zappis dies is because he had demeched with the self-destruct. I do think, however, that he still could have been challenging the Farah a little bit more.
Same ultimates look for a contest here though, especially the meteor strike. Myxo can all shut it down though with one good grab. There it is.
So we see the Diva mech get launched in from here. Even like this grab would last long enough that the Diva mech, so I think that could have flown up at him a little bit more and challenge this barrage a little bit more. And then as the mech is dying here, then you can hit the self-destruct, and that way you've blocked off the Farah ult a little bit better, but still are going to get the utility of the grav bomb.
That's going to be the grab and barrage up from Libero manages to find one.
And then that would give Zappis a better chance at remeching here. But as expected, the grav bomb is potent with South Korea not really having anything to block it. The Transcendence came out even.
There it is.
That's going to be the grab and
So even though there's a Transcendence in that grav, against a bomb it's not going to do anything because that's instant damage. And Trans heals over time. I think it's 300 health per second if I recall.
barrage up from Libero manages to find one. The self-destruct
So the Trans was not going to stop the grav bomb combo.
from Zappis gets two.
Other than it saves Jonak, but...
Two. Libero and Faith both going down. Meteor strike comes in. Big Goose going low. Zarya bubbles there to try to keep him alive. Rocket punch in. Can't get the exit.
If this Meteor Strike takes out Big Goose here, this is a slightly different fight.
Down meteor from Libero manages to find one. The self-destruct from Zappis gets two. Libero and Faith both going down.
It is really quite amazing that Big Goose survived this.
Meteor strike.
And then, just as this left click was going to take him out, Linkser throws a very, very nice bubble on
Meteor
him.
strike comes in. Big Goose.
And then Shaz is determined to keep all his healers, all of his teammates alive. Pops Coalescence to quickly top off Big Goose because when this bubble goes down, if that coalescence wasn't there, then Big U still would have been dead.
Who's going low? Zarya bubbles there to try to keep him alive. Keep him alive. Rocket punch in.
And then that rocket punch, there's nothing for Lucio to collide with.
Can't get the execution. Big U still survives.
And then now Finland is 5v4 with solid point control.
He's over onto the cart, keeping this one contested. Carpe jumping away.
Fraggy, meanwhile, has built another shatter.
Down from Libero, manages to find
down though with one good. Have those same. They knew Libero.
Look
knew
how
they
fast he
couldn't
builds
try
this
to
shatter.
barrage there, which is never going to be a trade up. They have those same ultimates to look for a contest here though, especially the Meteor Strike. Myxo can all shut it down though with one good grab. There it is.
That's going to be the grab and barrage out from Libero, manages to find one. The self-destruct from Zappis gets two.
The
Libero and Faith both going down. Going down, Meteor Strike comes in, Big U's going low. Zarya bubbles there to try to keep him alive. Rocket punch in, can't get the execution. Big U still survives.
I mean, Fraggy is just swinging his hammer at anything within range, and he's just building this ult. And then he sees a great opportunity for that shatter, knowing how fast he built it. He sees Jonak there, important target. So he takes out, he probably saw Mercy too, but Mercy was able to get out of it. So Fraggy is going to finish off Jonak here. And then we see what I think is a mental mistake for South Korea, the decision to res Jonak here. And perhaps Mercy thought that she was going to get more cover than she was, or that Fate was going to be able to knock him away a little bit. But that res coming in there, well, Fraggy is still there. You're resing your Zenyatta into an instant death. So there's the res. And here you can see Fraggy. He's just sitting there holding left click, ready for this. Like, there's absolutely no way Jonak is going to live. So Jonak gets killed twice in rapid succession. And then look, he's already a third of the way to ult. Again. Perhaps if they were going to res just to kind of be set up more quickly for the next fight, then that res was going to need a lot more coverage from South Korea's tanks. But there we see the res starting to come in, and instead of Myxo and Fate peeling for the res, they make a play to point because they want to contest this before it goes down. But I think that here, this is where you, if you're South Korea, you have to recognize that the fight is lost. Your Mercy is completely zoned out. You don't have anyone on payload presently. Your Zenyatta is down. Your Wrecking Ball is still coming back from point. So I would have liked to have seen South Korea give up the point here and come back and help get that res off on Jonak. Zone Reinhardt out, and then get set up for a defensive position a little bit more quickly. This point is lost, and I don't see the value in Fate coming in and D.Va coming in to contest.
Just to get Jonak. They try to get this completion. 1.43 meters left to go. Arc is going to have the res. Puts the Zenyatta back into the fight. Fate playing forward. Pulls his way out of there, but Myxo's going to get taken down, and Jonak's dead again. The Goose will get eliminated. Carpe.
And what this is going to do is it's going... So Carpe finally got his Lucio kill. But this is just going to... So Finland's invested a ton of ults to secure this point, which is a good thing. But in choosing to recontest here when the fight, in my opinion, was lost, South Korea is giving up more ultimate charge to Finland than they should have.
Carpe finds that one. Medium energy here on Linkser, zapping away, building up a little bit more as he tosses out these shields, and Carpe will die. Completion is there, and now it's...
So we saw a Coalescence used in that fight. We saw a D.Va Bomb used in that fight. We got Rally there at the end. We saw Fraggy use a Shatter, and we saw Linkser use a Grab. So Finland used 5 ults to secure that point. And I believe that South Korea only used Doomfist, Transcendence, and Barrage. So that's a good trade in ults if you're South Korea. But that recontest, I don't think built a significant amount of ult charge for the team going into the next fight, but it did give Finland a lot. So even though they just used Grav in that fight, Linkser is already over halfway to another Grav. Fraggy built and used and then built 50% on his next Shatter. So that was the risk that South Korea was running by contesting there.
Now it's 4 minutes for the home stretch for Finland.
So now with 4 minutes coming into the last leg here, Finland should be feeling really, really good. And they really need to make sure that they keep this Zarya supported, because she is very high charge and building this Grav quickly.
Trying to make it the point C.
Finland is just playing around this very aggressive dive style so well. I mean, you don't normally think of a traditional dive as a...
But South Korea continues to prove the more traditional thinking with respect to ultimates wrong. You know, they're so good at building ultimates when they want them, and then using them in interesting split up ways, like using kind of 3 back-to-back and then a 1 follow-up, another 1 follow-up, as opposed to just kind of like going with 2 and then committing to a decision of whether the fight is lost or won. So South Korea, even though they did give up a lot of ult charge, they're going to be feeling pretty good, knowing how quick they can build this pharmacy ult and build this minefield.
Wrecking Ball plus a Doom Fist, but in this case, that's what South Korea is trying to operate on. Taimu's shutting it down. Linkser's building up these very early Gravitons, and he's also fighting with high energy because of this style. Here comes Fate, but again, they're splitting against it. They've figured out Fate's style here. It's very predictable. It's a straight up swing in and look for a big pile driver, but when you can react to it this quickly, especially with a Lucio on your side, it becomes so much less effective. I think that's what we're seeing here from South Korea, diminishing returns.
It's kind of like predicting Haksal using a Dragon Blade to go to, Korean contenders for a second. He dashes up into the air, and then the blade's going to come out. You know it every single time.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the pile driver here from Fate. He's going to drop down the minefield. Linkser falls low, but gets the shielding back in. Just looking for Carpe. Getting these right clicks in onto him. Almost takes down that Widowmaker single-handedly. Fate's still wreaking havoc around the backhand side, but he's zipping his way out of there very quickly. And all the tanks are distracted. It's going to be 2 kills coming in as Taimu and Big Goose both go down. And now it's just going to be cleanup time here for South Korea. They gain.
So that's a really solid hold by South Korea. They did a lot of things right there.
Control Big Goose. He dashes up into the air.
Fate, but again,
trying to make it the point C.
Finland is just playing around this very aggressive dive style so well. I mean, you don't normally think of a traditional dive as a Wrecking Ball plus...
So first we see a swap onto Widow here, which makes sense because there's good high ground vantage points for Widowmaker on this 3rd point, better than the 2nd point. And the pick potential of the Widow onto a Lucio or Moira or even a Brigitte is threatening, because if Finland is all stacked up here kind of on this card as it turns the corner and you've got a Widowmaker there, second Fraggy drops his shield, then the entirety of Finland is opened up to Carpe's Widowmaker, so it's going to force Fraggy to be a lot more cautious with this shield.
A Doom Fist, but in this case, that's what South Korea is trying to operate on. Taimu's shutting it down. Linkser's building up these very early Gravitons, and he's also fighting with high energy because...
So here we see the initiation coming in with a Valkyrie onto Fate as he's about to drop down.
Because of this style, here comes Fate.
And watch how Finland has learned how to play around this Wrecking Ball, though. They know that if they're all stacked, this pile driver is going to do a lot more damage. So what and it's a radius, right? So if you're directly underneath him, it's going to do the most damage, and then as you go out in circles around the epicenter of the pile drive, you take less damage. So Finland is not only moving away from the site of the pile drive, but they're doing so in a way that creates a little bit of distance between each hero. And what this does is it prevents Fate from being able to use that adaptive shield very effectively, because it has a very close range on it. So he's not going to get the extra shields from having a lot of enemies close to him, because this separation enables or it prevents him from being able to get the stacks on that shield.
But again, they're splitting against
And then when they and then look how when they see him rolling back, they pull back together a little bit. So that's really heads up play, and shows how Finland is learning to play against the counter that is Wrecking Ball.
Down, Linkser's building up these very early gravitons, and he's also fighting with high energy because of this style. Here comes Fate, but again, they're splitting against it. They've figured out Fate's style here. It's very predictable.
Yeah, and the commentator is right on the money there. He recognized the same thing about how Finland is recognizing, because there is a lot of time from when you see Wrecking Ball get that hook and kind of fly up in the air getting ready. There's a lot of time from then until the actual pile drive comes down. So if Finland can continue to do that effectively, it's going to force Fate to change up his style of play, or perhaps even change off the Wrecking Ball if he can't get the value of those slams and the adaptive shields.
It's a straight up swing in.
And then so we see like a little baby reset from both teams.
And look, they've figured out Fate's style.
Fate, knowing that he didn't get much with that pile driver, he's going to roll out. Fraggy is making a call, I'm sure, to his team that his shield's going down.
Style here, it's very predictable. It's a straight
so they're going to fall back
swing in.
just a little bit to get topped off and to get the charge back on Fraggy's shield. I think it's just really interesting to see how right in the middle of what you thought was going to be a big fight, a big engagement.
Gravitons, and he's also fighting with high energy because of this style.
Like here you've got ults committed, you've got people coming in.
They're splitting against it. They've figured out Fate's style here.
But then both teams recognize that they're not exactly in the position they want to be in. You know, Fate recognized that he didn't get a lot of value out of the pile drive. Fraggy's recognizing that he doesn't want to be caught out here with no shield against a Pharah and a Widow. And so the team smartly retreats this way to allow the shield to recharge and remain out of line of sight of Carpe's Widow. So I just think this little baby reset from both sides is cool as they kind of jockey for positional advantage.
Predictable. It's a straight up swing in and look for a big pile driver, but when you can react to it this quickly, especially with a Lucio on your side, it becomes so much less effective. I think that's what we're seeing here from South Korea, diminishing returns.
It's kind of like
And so we get into the second phase of this fight here. Now we have some more ultimates to play with on both sides. Mainly on South Korea.
I think that's what we're seeing here from South Korea.
But Linkser is building that grav really quickly.
It's kind of like predicting Haksal using a Dragon Blade to go to, you know.
And now we've got a lot of good ultimates for South Korea here. And Finland has not been able to continue the ult charge that they were rapidly building at the end of the last fight when everyone was within melee range. But having these three heroes out of range, having Carpe out of range, Diva of course can fly out of range, and then Wrecking Ball can slam and get out. It's slowing the ult charge build up for Finland.
Korean contenders for a second. He dashes up into
And meanwhile, we've got a barrage, minefield, diva bomb.
the air, and then the blade's going to come out. You know it every single time.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the pile driver here from Fate. He's going to drop down the minefield.
And here we see the initial trade of ults. We see Linkser build that grab and use it pretty rapidly. And Fate's going to slam down and drop the minefield.
The blade's going to come out. You know it every single time.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the pile driver here from Fate. He's going to drop down the minefield. Linkser falls low and gets a shielding back in. Just looking for
That grab was countered by this slam.
the same thing with the pile driver here from Fate.
Kind of.
He dashes up into the air.
Trying to see if he popped it before.
That's the same thing with the
So he popped it there. So was he looking to get Mercy and Widow?
pile
Did he mean to get that up a little bit higher?
Yeah. That's the same thing with the pile driver here from Fate. He's going to drop down the minefield.
But the grab ends up overshooting and not landing anyone, so not a lot of utility out of that grab.
Linkser falls low and gets a
And meanwhile, that minefield on point is keeping Finland a little bit separated from each other.
back in. Just looking for Carpe. Getting these right clicks in onto him. Almost takes down that Widowmaker single-handedly.
You know,
Fate's
Fate.
still wreaking havoc.
Yeah, Fate. He's still here. He's rolling around, and then look how that distraction of Fate on the
Looking for
wrecking
Carpe.
ball.
Getting these right clicks
Look who is going to draw the attention of Finland's tanks.
onto him. Almost takes
Like we see here.
Carpe. Getting these right.
I think that's Taimu's Brigitte in there. So now he went this way because of the minefield. You know, he couldn't stay out here or go this way. So he got zoned into kind of this little room by the minefield. So he's separated.
Right clicks in onto him. Almost takes down that Widowmaker.
And then Fate here rolling around. He draws the attention of both of Finland's tanks, or 2 out of 3 of Finland's tanks, the Rhine and Zarya.
Widowmaker single-handedly. Fate's still wreaking.
So we see Rhine and Zarya here both chasing a hero that they cannot catch up to. And what this does is it leaves the rest of Finland, particularly their supports, very, very exposed.
Wreaking havoc around the backhand side, but he's at.
And Big Goose tries to use that sound barrier that he just built to give him and the other supports a little bit of survivability, but it's too late without the meat shields in front of them. Both Taimu and Big Goose get taken out,
Zipping his way out.
and now the
Very
tanks
quickly. And how the
move back forward. But now the fight's already lost because of that separation that was enabled by the minefield and the distraction of the wrecking ball.
All the tanks are distracted. It's going to be 2 kills coming in as Taimu and Big Goose both go down. And now it's just going to be cleanup time here for South Korea. They gain control over the cart. This is going to allow them to drain some time off of this.
And it's really important how few ults South Korea was able to take that with. They just use Valk and Minefield.
Dragon Blade to go to, Korean contenders for a second. He's going to drop down the minefield, down that Widowmaker.
They had no need for Baram or Barrage to finish that off because they were able to create the separation in the Goats comp just by using the minefield.
Single-handedly, Fate's still wreaking havoc around the 2 kills coming in as Taimu and Big Goose both go down. And now it's
And the result is that South Korea was able to hold very efficiently, and because of the distance at which South Korea played away, not getting within range of that Goats composition, Finland really wasn't able to build a ton of ultimate charge overall.
It's just going to be cleanup time here for South Korea. They gain control over the cart. This is going to allow them to drain some time off of this bank. 3 minutes just about, still plenty for Finland to get this completion, but you can see the swaps coming through.
So here we see a very interesting strategy coming out for Finland. Interesting because this is the first time that we've seen them not play Goats. They played Goats all throughout Lijiang Tower, and then all the way up until this point, King's Row, they've just been on goats. So they're making a radical change by going to dive tanks, double sniper.
Yeah, we are seeing a major composition.
And we'll see how South Korea is paying attention to that.
Swap coming through from Finland, and this is going to allow for more burst damage.
Yep, so here we see South Korea recognizing the swaps coming out from Finland, so they're going to go ahead and swap out the Wrecking Ball, because against this composition, the Wrecking Ball has very little value, because these tanks are going to be all over the place, and these snipers are going to be playing at a distance and separate. So there's really no utility in the pile driver or adaptive shield at all. There's going to be a lot more utility with a monkey, or what we're going to see here
Linkster's running the Hanzo, so storm arrows can be used.
Fate's going to be matching.
Is actually swapped to Rhine. I would have stayed on monkey if I was Fate. I think that the shield is not going to give the team a ton of value, because Carpe is going to be playing high ground ideally, and he's going to have a positional advantage over Finland snipers. Arc and Farah, Arc and Libero here, they're not getting a lot of advantage out of the shield, so it's really only to protect Jonak from the snipers.
Oh.
But I think that that could still be done effectively with good communication between Reinhardt and Diva, and smart positioning on Jonak's part, and then the potent nature of the dive tanks with the Zenyatta orb, I think would have been more threatening to Finland's backline.
Okay, flipping around. He's making up his mind.
Okay.
Time to find Libero.
Well, that's one thing that you can do with a very quick swap.
So we're just going to play this through and then break it down.
Flipping around. He's making up his mind.
Okay.
Time to find Libero.
Well, that's one thing that you can do with a very quick swap, is to eliminate the Pharah immediately.
Yep. Get rid of him. Try to force out that res, perhaps. Linkster comes up, finds Carpe point blank. Taking him down. He will be under fire, and he will get taken out. Echo finds that one, but Taimo gets rid of Arc, and now Jonik's going to be out of the fight. There's no supports available here for South Korea. They get the elimination on Jonik while he has the Transcendence up. The cart starting to move forward for Finland.
Looks like Fate just wanted to respawn here. That's why he charged in like that. If you got a kill, it would buy a little bit more time. But look at the control of line of sight here for Taimo. No one can deal with him right now. There's just simply no way.
Wants to get that headshot if he can take down Jonik, but now it's not going to happen. Pops the Transcendence. Another pile driver out from Fate trying to build up. Taimo looking for his shot. Drops over onto the back. The self-destruct here, not going to find anything. And Carpe manages to get rid of Shaz. So that's going to be a nice little pick-off here for the side of South Korea, alleviating a lot of pressure. Now his Zappis as well will die. Libero over onto the Tracer. Nearly has that pulse bomb set and ready to go. But the rest of Finland have kind of...
Okay, a very interesting fight. There's a lot going on, and some big plays by Finland to start off this fight made it look like they were going to be able to finish it.
Another pile driver.
A little bit more. Looks like Fate just wanted to respawn here. That's why.
Transcendence up. The cart starting to move forward for Finland.
Looks like Fate just eliminate the Pharah immediately.
Yep. For Finland to get this completion, but you can see the swaps coming through.
Yeah, we are seeing a major composition swap coming through from Finland, and this is going to allow for more burst damage. Linkster's running the Hanzo, so storm arrows can be used.
Fate's going to be matching.
So this first pick really opens up a lot.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, flipping around. He's...
So that pick onto the Farah, and it's followed up.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So we see the pick come out on the Farah, and then we see Fraggy's monkey dive in on that high ground there.
Okay, flipping around. He's making up his mind.
Okay.
Time to find Libero.
Well, that's one thing that you can do with a very quick swap. Is
And Diva also came up there, so that threatens Arc, and it prevents the res from getting off.
He's making up his mind.
Okay.
Time to find Libero.
And so that one pick, and then the follow-up with the tanks, gives Finland a lot of space to work with here and establish good high ground control.
Well, that's one thing that you can do
Prevents the res.
with a very quick swap, is to eliminate the Pharah immediately.
Yep. Get rid of him. Try to force out.
Arc, meanwhile, builds Valk and uses it, knowing that his team's at a slight disadvantage.
Force out that res, perhaps. Myxo.
And then Myxo gets a nice pick of his own. So now South Korea is in a position of just having tanks and healers alive to contest. And now Finland's snipers, their entire team really, has a ton of space. They get to basically set up now where they want to.
Myxo comes up, finds Carpe point blank, taking him down. He will be.
And Taimu gets the Valkyrie Mercy, which is another huge pick.
He will be under fire and he will get taken out.
In the meantime, we've seen Libero swap over to Hanzo off of the Pharah, even though he has Barrage, because he knows that even with a Barrage, even with a Trans Barrage, it's just one shot from Taimu and it ends it right there. So there's no point in holding on to the Pharah or the Barrage here. So they match the double snipers. And even though Meko manages to get Myxo was really far pushed up here. So he definitely went up to chase that pick, and then Meko and smartly recognizes that he doesn't have any peeling, he doesn't have any support, so he's an isolated target that can be punished.
Taking him down. He will be under fire and he will get taken out. Meko finds that one, but Taimu gets.
And then Jonak goes down. So this is looking really, really bad for South Korea. And we've got the Diva Bomb coming out here, which just creates a ton of space here. Now, like, look at this shot. There isn't a single South Korean player within sight right here. So this is really good position for Finland to be in.
Taking him down. He will be under fire and he will get taken out.
I'm not sure that this this Diva Bomb was necessary.
Meko finds that one.
Jonak was already in trouble.
Taking him down. He will be under fire and he will get taken.
Yeah, Jonak was already in huge trouble with the pick of Arc.
Will be under fire and he will get taken out. Meko finds that one, but Taimu gets.
And now this, yes, it zones out space, but it doesn't really. Like, yes, it's eating up the space, but it didn't force anyone out of this space. And it didn't kill anyone. So I would have preferred to have held on to this Diva Bomb and then used it to zone out space as the recontests start coming into this area to stop the payload from moving.
Gets rid of Arc, and now Jundook's going to be out of the fight.
It would have gotten a lot more value if held on to and used at a later time.
There's no supports available here for South Korea.
And Fate, recognizing that the fight is lost, you know, he's going to die anyway, so he just attempts a blind charge.
They get the elimination on Jonuk while he has the Transcendence up. The cart starting to move forward for Finland.
And now we've got a res out here. And so now we've got 6 players for Finland in good positions.
Finland.
The cart moving forward with 2 on.
Looks like Fate just wanted to respawn here. That's why he charged in like that. If you got a kill, it would buy us a little bit more time. But look at the control of line of sight here for Taimu. No one can deal with.
So here's where the Diva Bomb would have been so useful.
Deal with him right now.
South Korea comes in to contest the point with just 4.7 meters left, and they come in with, you know, heroes that are meant to get there quickly and stall it out. They come in with Wrecking Ball and Tracer, and even though they have Trans here, like we saw earlier, this composition can't do anything against a Diva Bomb other than hide. There's no shield for them to hide behind. A Trans isn't going to prevent people from dying.
Wants to get that headshot if he can take down Johnny, but now it's not going to happen. Pops the Transcendence. Another pile driver out from Fate.
And it buys South Korea just enough time.
Wants to get that headshot if he can take down Johnny, but now it's not going to happen. Pops the Transcendence. Another pile driver out from Fate trying to build up.
Just enough space and time for their own self-destruct to come out. the Transcendence gets in there to contest the point.
Looking for a shot. Drops over on the back. The self-destruct here, not gonna.
And then with that bomb effectively zoning out Finland, then Carpe can get in position and he gets a good shot onto Finland's Zenyatta. And now we've got all 6 players of South Korea back up and ready to go. And now Finland has gone from a position of advantage to disadvantage because of that D.Va bomb that zoned them out. And that's why I think, again, like right here.
Trying to build up. You take down Johnny for now.
Here for Taimu. No one can deal with him right now. There's just simply no
You have that D.Va bomb here. And I think that this point is won.
Not going to happen. Pops the Transcendence. Another pile driver out from Fate trying to build up. Taimu looking for a shot. Drops over onto the back. The self-destruct here, not going to find anything. And Carpe managed to get rid of Shaz. So that's going to be a nice little pick-off here for the side of South Korea, alleviating a lot of pressure. Now is Zappis as well.
And now, if you're South Korea, you've just won this fight. You used the D.Va bomb as an effective zoning ultimate to get into more advantageous positions. So that D.Va bomb forced Taimu to hide, which allowed Carpe to get up there. Carpe up there was able to get a good kill on Zenyatta, and now he's able to really pressure Taimu.
A nice little pick-off here for the side of South Korea, alleviating a lot of pressure. Now is Zappis as well will die. Libero over onto the Tracer, nearly has that pulse bomb set and ready to go. But the rest of Finland have Libero.
I think Big Goose actually.
So that's going to be a nice little pick-off here for the side of South Korea, alleviating a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
now
he's just going to
Zappis
jump
as well
off
will die.
because he recognizes that it's done.
Over onto the Tracer, nearly has that pulse bomb set and ready to go. But the rest of Finland have kited their way out. They're moving back towards the spawn.
South Korea has finally stabilized now.
Yeah.
Big Goose trying to survive underneath there, isn't able to do enough healing there. Unfortunately, the safest team is going to have a Valkyrie for the next push.
So that was a really good hold. Again, enabled by the D.Va bomb. So I think that's one thing that anyone watching this video can take away from this into their own gameplay, is to look for D.Va bombs to create space by forcing the other team to move and hide, and then filling in the space that's vacated as a result, like Carpe and was able to do by getting into that high ground position behind that ult and then find good angles.
But look at this.
So even though that was an unfortunate fight for Finland, that's one that I'm sure that they think they could have and should have won because of all the swaps and all the ults that South Korea threw out to try and hold. Finland's coming into this fight with a major advantage. They're coming in with both support ultimates. They're coming in with a dragon, and Taimu's going to get walls. So having walls is going to make Carpe a lot less effective because Taimu's going to have the advanced knowledge. And so we're going to look here, I think, for, because of the mobility of South Korea's composition, it's unlikely that Myxo is going to get, a ton of kills with this Dragon Strike because everyone else is going to be able to avoid it. But I want to see Myxo here in this next fight using that dragon effectively as a zoning ultimate to lay a dragon down on space that Finland wants to take, and then have the tanks follow in with the dragon. That's one of the underrated aspects of Hanzo's ultimate, is that it's really big and blinding, and so it allows follow-up kind of inside of the dragon to be kind of that movement in that dragon is obscured to the enemy team.
Look at the setup here. Fate is
And this setup here for South Korea is really strong. So what Fate here does, so Mecco's got eyes, obviously, so he can relay information. But Fate here too, just by sitting in this corner in third person, because he's in ball form, he can see this way. So he's going to be able to relay information to Libero on Tracer, who's going to have this pulse bomb on where a potentially vulnerable pulse target is, and basically give him like the green light, because Libero can't see and he doesn't want to show himself. He wants to get in there with a surprise pulse bomb. So he's going to sit here and rely on his tanks to feed him the information that he needs.
Look at the setup.
So let's watch this next fight play out.
Setup here. Fate is hiding around the corner. Libero can hit anyone who just swings around. Hail Mary here to look for that final push. He's hoping, of course, to grab Shaz, if possible, force out an early transcendence. That's what he's looking for.
Pushes in, and that's just going to be the one clip coming down. Shaz did not stand a chance. Just gets melted down. No transcendence, no nothing. Now going to be under a minute if Finland can get this finished. So what started out with a fantastic time bank has now been bled dry by South Korea, or pretty close to dry, I should say. Taimo manages to trade one up here against Carpe, but he is in no man's land and will get taken down by Myxo. The Diva just hounded them out.
52 seconds left, as right now Finland has a huge slew of ultimates here, but they have to use them efficiently right now. Dragon Strike comes out here, zones a little bit. They need to make sure that the self-destruct can do the same.
It rolls through. Jonic now getting another Transcendence available. Carpe looking for a shot, spots out the Hanzo. This is out on the body tag. Not gonna get him. Now just looking around. Sees the Winston, can't get an angle really. Transcendence is gonna be out from Shaz, keeping everybody alive. Jonic matching here onto the cart. And Fraggy will be the first one to fall as the Transcendence expire. South Korea gonna go ahead and hold this one off. Linkser falls low, Linkser goes down, Jonic comes up with a kill, Fate charging forward. He's got another minefield. He's gonna drop him in, the pile driver gets rid of Shaz. Myxo goes down, as does Zappis. And this might just be it. Finland, the desperation swaps coming through. Taimo trying to zip his way out of there, will be able to do so, but he's got no HP. Linkser's dead on the Tracer. Carpe takes his head off. They get rid of Fraggy, and that's gonna be the OT. Forced out as a minefield, just gatekeeps Finland. Welcoming them in, they say, yes, please come try to get and tag the cart, but they're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
So major hold by South Korea there, even despite the fact that they didn't have nearly the ultimate advantage that Finland did to start off that fight.
Swings around, Hail Mary here to look for that final.
And it all starts with this. It's this play right here that creates the kind of chain series of events of things that go poorly for Finland. So remember we talked about how South Korea's tanks are feeding info to Libero's Tracer here, and they're going to let him know when to go. And Libero is going to be looking for a pulse on that Zenyatta, because they want to force him to use that Transcendence early, just as a survival, and not get any utility out of it in terms of healing. But it actually is even better.
To grab Shaz, if possible, force out an early transcendence. That's what
he doesn't even need the pulse bomb to take him out, and because he gets Shaz while Shaz is in mid animation of like tossing these orbs out.
To grab Shaz, if possible, force out an early transcendence.
So you see that he was at the end of that animation. And then by the time he even realized that this Tracer was on him, he couldn't even press ultimate in time.
Pushes in, and that's just going to be the one clip coming down. Shaz did not stand a chance.
And we see here a really heads-up play by Libero and Fate to make sure that this Zenyatta does not get rezzed. So Fate comes in and lands on the spot where that Zenyatta was. You see Finland coming in to try and protect an incoming res. But then look how Libero uses his pulse bomb here. Huge play. He just lays the pulse bomb down on the spot that he knows Mercy wants to get to, on Zenyatta's dead body. And putting that pulse bomb there
gets melted down, no transcendence, no nothing.
Forces Mercy to fall back.
Now going to be under a minute if Finland can get this finished. So
and then there is not enough time for Mercy to get back and get that res off.
Out with a fantastic time bank has now been bled dry.
So now Finland has to wait a little bit for this Zenyatta to get back, and even better, other than just killing the Zenyatta and buying time, Mercy had popped Valk here.
To look for that final push. He's hoping, of course, to grab Shaz if possible, force out an early transcend. That's what he's looking for.
And so now, with the fact that Zenyatta is dead, and that res couldn't come in despite all their best efforts, this is now a wasted Valk.
This is going to be the one clip coming down. Shaz did not stand a chance. This gets melted down. No transcendence, no nothing. Now going to be under a minute if Finland can get this finished. So
they not only got the stagger and the extra time and protected the res, but they forced the Big Goose's Valkyrie to be essentially useless.
So what started out with a fantastic time bank has now been bled dry by South Korea, or pretty close to dry, I should say. Taimu manages to trade one up here against Carpe, but
Taimu here makes, I think, an ill-advised play.
If Finland can get this,
we see Taimu here, and then next time we're gonna see him, we're gonna see that he had hooked up here, and then dropped all the way back at the end of the point to get an angle onto Carpe.
No nothing. Now going to be under a minute if Finland can get this finished. So what?
So we see that cheeky. So we see him there. We're gonna see this cheeky flank there. And Taimu's gonna end up killing Carpe with it.
Time bank has now been bled dry by South Korea, or pretty close to dry, I should.
But look where Taimu is here. That aggressive pick just completely put him out of position, and there are a million, like, not a million, but there are 5 South Korean players in between Taimu and the rest of Taimu's team, and so
should say Taimu manages to trade one up here against Carpe, but he is in no man.
So he's going to get taken down before Finland can really even regroup with the Zenyatta, and so now we have another stagger here with 56 seconds left on the clock.
And will get taken down by Myxo. The Diva just hounding them out.
52 seconds left, as you know, right now Finland has a...
So we can see kind of a soft reset coming in there from Finland. Manages a good pick on Tracer.
A slew of ultimates here, but they have to use them.
And now, so we see, if we go back a second, we see the soft reset coming in. We see a pick onto Tracer, and so now it's a 5-on-5 with that pick onto Tracer, and it's a 5-on-5 with 4 ultimates available. 5 if we count Taimu when he comes back, but at this moment in the fight, 4 ultimates and a 5-on-5. So this should be, even despite that stagger with Shaz and Taimu, this is still a decent position for Finland.
A slew of ultimates here, but they have to use them efficiently right now.
And here we see this dragon come in as a zoning ultimate. So see how we're watching Finland follow behind this dragon. It creates space on point, allows them to pressure it.
Comes out here, zones a little bit. They need to make sure
Fraggy has popped Primal Rage in the meantime.
You know, right now Finland has a huge slew of ultimates here, but they have to use them
to
efficiently right now. Dragon Strike comes out here
to work on Jonak.
Out here, zones a little bit.
Getting Jonak completely zoned out. I mean, Jonak is a high value target, and Finland doesn't want Transcendence to come out from him again anytime soon. So along with the dragon, that Primal Rage creates more space by zoning out Jonak and also forcing South Korea's team to come to Jonak's aid. So we see here that Finland has a lot of people on point, and they're dedicating a lot of resources. Their Diva is peeling, their Mercy is peeling. We saw Widow taking shots at the monkey.
Self-destruct can do the same.
It rolls through. Jonak now getting another Transcendence available. Carpe looking.
So now those were our first 2 ultimates coming out. Well, and then the walls coming out here, which is good for Taimu because Carpe doesn't have walls to counter. And now we're very close here. Finland has some decent control on the point. Their Hanzo's in a good position. They have walls up, so they have the advantage over Carpe. And they still have 2 ultimates left. But while Finland used Primal and Dragon Strike, the peeling was successful. The peeling for Jonak was successful in protecting him from Fraggy's Primal Rage. And in the process of that peel, Jonak and Myxo both built ultimate.
First shot spots on the Hanzo. This is out on the body tag. Not gonna get him. Now she's looking around. Sees the Winston, can't get an angle really. Transcendence is gonna.
We see dueling trans come out here.
It's gonna be out from Shaz, keeping everybody alive. Jonak.
And then look how fast Fraggy just got nuked here. And this is a total fight changer here, because now at this point the fight is back to 6 on 6, and both sides have 2 ultimates to play with.
She's looking around. Sees the Winston, can't get an angle really. Transcendence is gonna be.
And Fraggy is in here, and he's going to be taking damage. And Shaz here has this Transcendence up. You know, he's trying to keep his tank here alive,
Gonna be out from
and keep anyone who's contesting point here alive.
Shaz, keeping everybody.
But then look at this. Shaz backs up while this trans is active, while Fraggy is coming back for support. And he pulls the Transcendence out from healing Fraggy. And Fraggy just gets completely deleted by, look at this focus fire. We've got Carpe, we've got Libero, we've got Myxo, we've got Fate.
Everybody alive.
And look how fast, in just a split second, goes from 100 to 0. And this trans is still active here. And I get that Shaz doesn't want to be in a bad spot when he comes out of Transcendence. But he's got enough, you know, support here from his tanks to protect him when he comes out of that trans, even if he comes out of that trans kind of in this more forward position. But he needs to make sure that Transcendence stays on his monkey.
Transcendence is going to be out from Shaz, keeping everybody alive.
And because it doesn't, Fraggy goes down. And now with 27 seconds left, and a slew of ultimates built up for South Korea, Minefield, Diva Bomb, walls of their own, and just the self-destruct left for Finland. It's pretty much match over. I really think that Fraggy going down here and that trans kind of being pulled away from him as he's trying to get back to his team, I think that's a huge... I think that was basically the loss of the fight for Finland. Because now South Korea can just press their 6-on-5 advantage and their ult advantage. Hanzo now has no peeling. He's caught in another forward position there. He has no tanks to help him.
Jazz keeping everybody alive. Jonak matching here onto the cart.
I see Zappis is already on his way out.
Angle really. Transcendence is going to be out from Shaz, keeping everybody alive. Jonak matching here onto the cart. Fraggy will be the first one to fall.
And then Linkser on Hanzo there. It's just, he's not going to live.
South Korea going to go ahead and hold this one off. Linkser falls low. Linkser goes down. Jonak comes up with a kill. Fate charging forward.
Zappis uses self-destruct again to try and create some space, but by that point the stagger was just too strong.
Comes up with a kill. Fate charging forward. He's got another minefield. He's gonna drop in. The pile driver gets rid of Shaz. Myxo goes.
And it's an easy cleanup for South Korea.
Down as to Zappis, and this might just be it. Finland. The desperation swaps coming through. Taimu trying to zip his way out of there. Will be able to do so, but he's got no HP. Linkser's dead on the tracer. Carpe takes his head off. They get rid of Fraggy. And that's going to be the OT. Forced out as a minefield, just gatekeeps Finland. Welcoming them in, they say, yes, please come try.
And they didn't even need that self-destruct to finish that off because they were so good at pressing their advantage when Fraggy got taken out. So that does it for part 1 of the King's Row review. In part 2 of this review, we'll look at South Korea's attack and Finland's defense. And also at the end of that video, I'll go into some key points, looking at the match in general, some key points about how each team played and what was effective, and some of the things that ultimately ended up deciding the victor of this map. So check out part 2, and thanks for watching.